What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to the Mac and Fish podcast. I'm Coach McKinley Roll, and I'm here with my co-host, Charles Fishbein, better known as Fish. Fish, what's going on?
What up?
Hey, well, today we're doing our college football roundup, week 2 edition. First game we want to talk about is Georgia Tech versus UCF. Fish, what was your thoughts on that game?
You know, it pretty much went how I thought. I thought, especially after Georgia Tech had pretty much a big win for them against Florida State the week before. Sometimes that next week, it's hard for teams that pull an upset the following week to come out and beat a team that on paper is actually better than them, which UCF was. Overall, UCF runs a lot of tempo. They go up tempo, and what they do is they put so much pressure on you as a defense to have to literally go score for score. They're the Golden State Warriors of college football. They're the team that's jacking up threes, but instead of jacking up threes, they're throwing the ball down the field. They are going to take shots down the field. Everything's quick. Everything about their offense is quick. And if you're not ready, before you know it, they're putting up 30, 40, 50 points on you. And Georgia Tech wasn't ready for it. Having to have a freshman quarterback come out and have to go toe-to-toe and score on every drive with them basically became almost impossible.
Yeah, no doubt. UCF looked very impressive to me, especially offensively. Fish, I don't know what you think, but I think they could really beat FSU or Miami. I think it'd be a tough game. We haven't seen UF play yet, but UCF looks very impressive to me. Gabriel was playing, his numbers that he put up were almost video game type numbers. He threw for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's just very impressive. And like we always speak about, anytime you have the quarterback as your best player, you've always got a great chance to win a game on any level. Georgia Tech and Sims, I think that kid's going to be a very good quarterback. And their offensive line is young. I think Jeff Collins has a really good program that's going to be very good very quickly. He's a very good coach. And like you said before, to win a game like at FSU, and it was expected to have an emotional letdown. But I thought they showed fight and they didn't quit, but UCF is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you look, Jeff Collins came from UCF. He had played it, coached under Coach O'Leary at UCF, and UCF's been one of those programs all the way back to when Coach O'Leary was there that's been a sleeping giant. You could go. It started with when they had Dante Culpepper, and being in the center of the state, having so many resources, their facilities are great. It's a school that other teams aren't going to want to play. They've become almost like the Boise State of the East Coast. And when you look at their team, Dylan Gabriel, here's a kid, they got him out of Hawaii after they had a kid before from Hawaii. But a lot of the kid, if you watch him, there's probably only a handful of quarterbacks in college football that are better than him. His accuracy, his ability to throw the ball up the field. Receivers don't have to stop and wait. They could catch the ball, and their momentum, because the passes are so accurate, he throws guys up the field where they don't have to do much juking on the field. And you saw one of his touchdown passes. You couldn't have made a better throw. It was an NFL throw, and they're going to be very difficult. When you can score as much as they can and as quickly as they can, they could play with pretty much almost anybody in the country. Now, there may be, they may struggle against an Alabama or, one of those type of programs that come out of the SEC. But I think they can compete with the top 10, the teams in the Big 10 or the Big 12. I mean, their offense is very similar to Oklahoma's and these teams that play in the Big 12. So if they can score, and you saw it the other day, I mean, they put up 49 points. They had a lull in the third quarter. They could have put 60 up.
Absolutely.
And that's the type of team they are. I mean, they have positional players at wide receiver, running back. I mean, we talked about it, and we're going to talk about Florida State a little bit. Their skill players are explosive and can score on 1 or 2 plays. And that's the one thing Florida State's lacking right now. But they are so explosive. And I know people sit there and they go, oh, well, it's UCF. They don't play anybody. Listen, there aren't many teams that want to play them. You
Yeah,
know,
that's true. That's a good point. You're talking about the receivers. Williams, Robinson, and Nixon. They all had big games. Fish. They almost had 100 yards receiving each one of them, and they're going to be explosive. And like you said, if you can score points quickly and you get those possessions, you put that pressure on the defense on any team, it's going to wear them out. So I mean, UCF is here to stay. I think college football, the athletes spread out now, especially with the portal. You can change the dynamic of a program very quickly. Now switching gears to USF and Notre Dame, which was a total lopsided game. Notre Dame looks very impressive to me. They were dominant on defense. They held USF to 11 first downs, 231 yards, and forced 4 turnovers. Once you do that, you're going to win a game more times than not. The only weakness I see in Notre Dame's team right now is they don't really have a big-time receiver, but they have everything else. They have offensive line. They have the tight ends. They have a running back. Quarterback was efficient. He scored 3 rushing touchdowns. I just like everything they have to offer. As far as UCF, they're both of their quarterbacks struggled, and they're just still trying to find themselves. Obviously, it's a new staff. They're going to get better, but yeah, USF is just going to have to find themselves, and it's a program that's going to rise. They're young right now, new staff. They're going to come together and find themselves. What do you think, Fish?
Listen, I'm a big fan of Jeff Scott. He was a big reason why Clemson was so good. I mean, his father was a coach a long time ago at Florida State and also has been a part of the Clemson program. He's a great recruiter, so I don't think he's going to have a problem building that up. And if he takes the model that's happened at UCF and duplicates it there, they should be able to get the same type of players. But we discussed this game last week. I had seen Notre Dame against Duke, and they basically dominated Duke but did not play a good game. And I said they were going to come out and be angry this week, and they took their frustrations out on a USF team that wasn't ready for them. And you talk about, they don't have that big-time receiver. Well, he was playing for the Steelers today. His name's Chase Claypool, So they lost those guys. I agree. Their receivers are going to have to, they've got guys that have ability, but they're not ready yet to step up to that level. That's definitely – but Notre Dame has tight ends. They're running backs. They got 2-3 guys. The Tyree kid was a kid that was getting recruited by everybody, came out of Virginia. 8 rushes, 65 yards, a touchdown. He's a game breaker. They have the ability to make big plays. And defensively, there's probably only a handful of teams that are better defensively. I love their scheme. They're very aggressive on defense. They're very sound. You see all these defenses today where they're aggressive, but they're not sound. They get out of position. They're very rarely ever out of position to get overrun on a play. The coaches put them in position to make plays, and I think Notre Dame's going to be a very tough team to beat. When you have a veteran quarterback like they have, as long as Book doesn't go off script, he has his moments where he'll make some boneheaded throws. If he could stay within that system, they're going to be very difficult to beat. They're probably one of the teams that could contend for a playoff spot this year.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It feels like Book has been there for 6 years, doesn't it? He's been playing since, I guess, his freshman year had to be.
Yeah.
But like you said, he's experienced. I agree with you, Fish. Everything you said, I agree with. Notre Dame looks for real. A lot of times we look at them and we'll say, hey, they're pretenders, but they look complete. That's a complete team.
And you know what, though, McKinley, is that they did what they were supposed. If you're a top 5 team or you want to be a playoff team, you beat USF 52-0. That is what elite teams do. They don't mess around. They don't leave this team in until the second half, and you got to struggle. The teams, you've seen it, whether it's Miami, Florida, Florida State, when they've been great. Notre Dame's got the potential this year. Clemson, Alabama, they do not leave teams in games. If they leave teams in games, that year is a down year for them. Yeah. They destroyed a USF team that may not win more than 4 or 5 games, but they're going to compete this year because of the coaching staff and what they're able to do. They physically and mentally beat a team up and showed their will. And honestly, like I said, I think Notre Dame's a team that could sneak into that playoff. And this year, I don't know, with so much that's going on, this may be the year that they could possibly even pull off a national championship.
It's possible. It's definitely possible. All right, now jumping into Louisville versus Miami. Fish, we're gonna have a lot of thoughts on this game. Shoot.
Yeah, I said the same thing last week when Miami had played on a Thursday night. They played against UAB, first game of the year. A lot of people said Miami came out of the gate slow, and a lot of times it's hard to get up for those type of games. You talk to any college coach that's been at a Florida State, a Miami, a Florida. It's easy to get up for the big games. It's easy to get Miami and Florida State this week. They're going to be able to get up for each other. But when you play a team like a UAB, who's a good team, these kids, it's very difficult for them to play their A game. If they do, they'll blow them out. If they don't, you're going to see a game where the team stays in the game till the fourth quarter. But they came out against Louisville, and you could see early on, even the first drive that stalled, Miami was trying to make a statement. And they we talked about, they're back. This is the year they're back. They look back. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but they've got a great quarterback. They got one of the best backfields, I believe, in the country. They got 2 NFL tight ends. They got 2 DNs. They lost Gregory Rousseau, and they got 2 DNs that are going to be playing on Sundays. Now, do they have some holes on their team? Yeah, but when you have we talked about it with UCF, when you can score in one play like they did twice, you're a dangerous team. You don't want to play those teams because they could take you out of a game. You could be out of the game 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes into a game, and you don't have time to react. I mean, they basically were in control of that Louisville game the entire night. You never looked at that game and go, oh, Louisville is going to win this game. You never had that thought. Now, Louisville's a very good team, but Miami's better. And where Miami's gotten better, they're a lot better up front on that O-line. They've struggled the last couple of years, but I think they've simplified it with Coach Guerin this year. Guerin Justice went in there, and he simplified stuff that those guys have to learn. And you don't see those breakdowns they had last year, where it's not physical. It's just these mental breakdowns where guys are just constantly getting beat. And I think this Miami team is going to be very difficult. I think they're going to contend. I don't know if they could beat Clemson this year and Notre Dame, but I definitely think they're one of the top 3 teams in the ACC, and they could pretty much hang with anybody that's on their schedule this year.
Yeah, Fish, I agree with a lot of what you said. I thought both teams showed very good flashes that they can potentially be very good this season. I love King's touches on some passes that he throws. I really like Miami's tight ends. Like you said, they'll definitely be playing on Sunday. What a difference a year makes, right? For Miami, they look so much more confident offensively. And that's really with the quarterback position. I also like what Coach Lashley is bringing to the table. They may need to pay him a lot more money to keep him around because you see the difference in their offense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're a different team right now, and they're putting a lot of pressure on defenses.
I had went to one of their spring practices, and I've been going probably now for 10 years, all right? And every year I heard the hype, Miami's back. I heard about how great Jaron Williams was coming out. I heard how great Tate Martell was going to be, and I'm like, I'd leave practices, and I'm like, wow, these kids aren't that good. I went to one spring practice, and I realized Derek King's the real deal.
Yeah,
and I remember walking off the field, and I turned over. I made a remark to Manny, and he had like a little smile on his face, like, I got that quarterback. Like you know when you have the goods, and as a coach, as a head coach, you've seen it before. He's you could go out and be very confident when you're rolling out Derek King, and you're handing it off to Cam Harris and Jalen Knight. Like when you have the players. Last year, they didn't have those players. And this game would have been a 50-50 game last year. But you know what? They went out and dominated from the beginning to end. You saw it on defense. Now, I do think they need to clean some things up on defense.
Absolutely.
The 15-yard penalties, helping Louisville sustain drives. They could have really won this game probably by 21, 28 points if they cut that stuff out. So there's definitely some rooms for improvement. But we talked about it last week. From week 1 to 2, did Notre Dame get better? Yes. From week 1 to 2, did Miami get better? Coaches always say, if you're going to see improvement, it's going to be from week 1 to 2. Now Miami's got to take it to that next level. They're playing a Florida State team next week, and we're going to get into that game that is, struggling. You don't know if the team has confidence right now. They've got to continue to beat teams that they're supposed to beat. And that's how you know if they're a top 10 team.
No question. But, another thing I liked of what Miami did was they scored on 4 consecutive drives in both halves, right? And that shows a good football team. When you're able to come out and put a drive together and score, that puts a lot of pressure on another opponent. And it gives confidence to that group. Miami is playing with so much confidence now. They had that swagger. You saw Ed Reed on the sidelines, and Manny looks very confident. I love what Miami is doing, what they bring to the table, and everything that they bring. Now, like we talked about, defensively, way too many plays they gave up, way too much yardage. And you can't really look at the time of possession because you look at it, Louisville not only had more first downs and more total yardage, but they dominated time of possession. But this game came down to the takeaways. Miami forced 3 turnovers and did not commit any. And that's the reason they won the game, Fish.
There's no question. Turnovers, and they also, you looked at it, I think twice Louisville scored touchdowns, and then the next possession, Miami scored on one play. So basically, that's very demoralizing if you're on the other sideline. Like, hey, we just got the game back within 14 or 7, and the next thing you know, one play later, the guy's in the end zone and the team's celebrating. That's how you know you have a good football team, is how do you respond to adversity? Mm-hmm. And what's crazy about this team, why it's so much better, honestly, I think Manny's done one of the best jobs with the transfer portal. I mean, you look from D'Eriq King to they landed the offensive tackle from Houston. Their 2 starting DNs, Roche and Jordan Phillips, were both going to be in the NFL. You look at Bubba Bolden is probably their best safety. He was at UCLA. These guys were all 4 and high 5-star kids that weren't getting it done at their other schools. They came to Miami, and now they're living up to their potential. And this team's going to get better each week. And I think they're going to be a tough team by the end of the year. You're not going to want to play them in week 9, 10, or 11 because once these guys start to get rolling, and the whole thing about Miami, it's all about that confidence. Once they get it, and it becomes contagious on that team, they're going to be very difficult to beat.
But Fish, you look at it, right? Miami this year, they just had crazy confidence everywhere because they're also doing very well in recruiting as well. And if they start producing on the field, because that's the one thing that they've held them back. The quarterback position, they've also been shaky in special teams. Their kicker was amazing, right? That gives a play caller so much confidence. When you know you get someplace on the field and you can say, hey, we got an automatic 3 points coming. Now I can be a little bit more aggressive in calling plays, right? And that puts, again, a lot more pressure on the defense. But this Miami team, I love where the program is going. I think the sky's the limit. They are killing it in recruiting. And this area, right, South Florida is so fertile. If they start being successful on the field, the whole country better look out.
Yeah, I agree. That's the one thing. Their recruiting's great because they're keeping the top kids home. I mean, you go look on Sundays now with Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy. These guys were all leaving. And everybody goes, oh, well, why is Miami not winning these games? Well, when the better players are on the other team, even in 2013, you go look at that FSU team. When Miami looked across the field, the starting running back, Devontae Freeman from Miami, Calvin Benjamin from Palm Beach, Rashad Green from Fort Lauderdale, Bobby Hart from Fort Lauderdale. They're getting beat by their guys. And they're starting to keep those guys home. This 2021 class is loaded with kids. They're all local kids. I watched James Williams the other day. The kid is going to be one of the best players in college football on the defensive side of the ball over the next 3 years. They're getting dudes.
Fish, look at it, right? Just like you're talking about recruiting. They got Deerfield Beach, Knighton, right?
Yep.
He looked – that kid is probably going to be an All-American when he finishes up. I mean, he looked very impressive, very explosive. And he's only going to get better. He's a true freshman out there doing that. So the sky is the limit for them, and I think it's very scary for the rest of college football if they're able to keep those kids home.
What's that kid going to look like when he goes through spring ball and off-season workouts and he puts on 15 pounds of muscle, and the kid is yoked up next year, and he gets his legs stronger where you go to tackle him, you can't bring him down, and then all of a sudden his speed's different level speed. He's a difference maker, and that was why when I talked about him, there's very few of those guys that are difference makers. UCF has them. You look at Miami, they have them. If you don't have those type of guys, it's very difficult, especially in college football, to have 10, 12, 14 play drives and expect these guys not to make a mistake. When you have dudes that can go and break off, you even saw with Louisville. Louisville has Tutu Atwell, and they also have the Hawkins kid. Both of those guys are probably legitimate 4-4-5 type guys and will get drafted in the NFL. How many of those guys do you see at Florida State right now? So that's
let's segue into that right now. That's a great lead-in. We're talking now. Let's preview FSU versus Miami. You're just talking about playmakers and the amount that Miami has and the NFL caliber talent that they have. That's going to put a lot of pressure on Florida State because I don't see too many playmakers at Florida State right now. A guy running back that can change the scoreboard very quickly. Terry has the ability, obviously the size, he's going to be a mismatch, but we want to talk about quick, Miami has that explosive power on offense. That's going to be very tough for Florida State to stop. I think if Florida State wants to have a chance in this game, Fish, they're going to have to slow the game down and like you talked about last week, get in short yards positions where they're winning first down, when they're winning second down, and they're making it 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and getting in short yardage positions. Because if they can't get in a shootout with Miami, they'll lose that game.
No,
it could be close.
If they don't win first down, they're not winning the game. They've got to, because one, I don't personally believe Blackman plays well when he's behind the sticks. If you could put him in 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, 3rd and 1, all right, you're going to limit the mistakes he can make because you could kind of take the ball out of his hand or decide where you're going to go with the ball with him. If it's 3rd and 1, you could say, all right, we're going to go to Terry here. And he just, hey, 1, 2, 3, get the ball out, get it to Terry. But they're going to have to grind this game down, limit the amount of times Miami gets possessions. They probably want Miami to get, in that 8 to 10, maybe 11 possessions in this game. They don't. If Miami's getting, I don't know how many possessions they had against Louisville, but they do not want this team getting a ton of possessions, or they're going to have a long night. I mean, they're just going to have a long night. They want to limit the possessions. They want to grind it out. They want, Florida State does have a pretty good punter this year, so they want to flip the field and make Miami have to make mistakes. And I think that's what it's going to come down to is Florida State, if they want any shot in this game, they have to, one, win the turnover battle. I think they're going to have to win the rushing battle, and it's going to be difficult, but they have to win the rushing battle. And they've got to stay out of 2nd and 3rd and longs. If they could do that, they could stay in the game. I'm not saying they could win the game, but they'll give themselves a chance because it is a rivalry. We saw 2 years ago, I remember going to the game, I thought FSU had no shot, and I think they were up like 27-7 at halftime, and you're like sitting there, how did this happen? But it is a rivalry. A block punt, Florida State blocked some kicks in the opening game against Georgia Tech. They're going to have to send 11 guys after the punter and try to block a punt and get a cheap touchdown or a cheap field goal and win that first half and get it to the fourth quarter where you're within 7 to 10 points and give yourself a chance. If they don't, this thing could get ugly.
Well, I'm interested in seeing a dynamic with them having Coach Norvell on the sideline. A team that's already kind of mentally fragile, I would like to see how they come out and play against Miami. But like you said, it's a rivalry game, so that may not really even factor into anything. But it's an interesting thing to look for, too.
Yeah. Well, with Norvell not going to be there on Saturday, one thing is a lot of people don't know Coach Thompson. I've known Coach Thompson a long time, actually. He was the head coach at Abilene Christian. Now, I know Division II is different, but he knows what goes into planning for the week.
Oh, yeah.
He knows what goes into a rivalry game. the guy's he's being a head coach. He knows what everything goes into that game week, from, I don't even care if it's the meal before the game or the hotel they stay in or all the little things that, games aren't won on Saturday. I know a lot of people think they're won on Saturday, but Monday through Friday is where coaches do all their stuff. And he's done that before. But if he wants a chance to win this game, like I said, they're going to have to shorten this game, and they've got to get a team effort here. Like, the defense is going to have to get turnovers. They're going to have to get I think they're going to have to get a special teams touchdown. They got one 2 years ago with DJ Matthews. I know he's not there, but maybe Travis Jay on special teams, he returns a punt for a touchdown. They're going to have to steal points and get this thing to the fourth quarter if they want a legitimate shot at beating a team that I think is very, very good in Miami.
And we talked about, right, Florida State special teams have been very impressive this year. So that's a third of the game. They may be able to change the game by that and win the field position battle from that. So it's something interesting to watch. Again, we talk about quarterback for quarterback. I like King over Blackman, and I think it's going to be a difference. But the good news is for Florida State is I feel that Miami's defense is that's their Achilles heel. I'm not very impressed by their defense yet, even though they had those takeaways. I think they're giving up they're a bend but don't break type of defense, and I think they're kind of vulnerable in that aspect. So Florida State definitely has a chance to win the game, especially a rivalry game. You never know what could happen in that.
Now, I could be dead wrong. I think you're going to see a lot of Jordan Travis in this game. I think they're going to maybe even bring the freshman Tate Rodemaker in. I know people say, oh, he's only a freshman. This is a game that you're not going to leave any bullets in the gun. No. Like, if you believe somebody can help you win this game, you're throwing them out there.
Oh, no question.
And Jordan Travis, I think his ability to run and keep drives alive. Now, maybe they have some passing packages where he has 2 or 3 throws that they feel comfortable him throwing. Maybe they roll him out, get him on the edge, throwing to a tight end or a wide receiver on like a drag route, stuff that he doesn't have to make a read. He could just throw the ball, pitch and catch. But I think you're going to see some packages that you haven't seen before. And if I'm the coach of Florida State, they've had 2 weeks. They're going to have 2 weeks to prepare. You better throw everything in this game.
No doubt.
Because I don't believe Florida State – I'm not saying they have to win this game, but I think they got to make it look respectable moving forward. I think it's important for recruiting that, hey, look, we have the right schemes, guys, but we're recruiting you guys to come in to make us better.
Yeah.
And they have to show some life. If they come out and play like they did against Georgia Tech, there's going to be a lot of Florida State fans turning off their TVs at halftime.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, well, hey, that concludes week 2 college football roundup. Fish, it was a pleasure.
I'm excited. Hey, listen, we've got football. And I remember talking to everybody 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. I was talking to my wife the other day. There wasn't one person I spoke to that thought we were going to have football. And we have football. I mean, I was at a high school game the other day, and it wasn't pretty, but it was better than being at home. I never thought a 7-3 game would be so exciting. But, like, just getting out of the house and like, hey, man, it's at this point, just inject me with whatever you're going to give me at this point, and I just want to move on with my life. It's fun, and I'm sure these kids feel the same way. These football players, whether it's the high school or the college level and even the pro level, what a relief it is just to do something different, to get your mind off of everything we've been through the last 6 months.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But they also have to make sure, though, Fish, as well as that, is that they're wearing a mask and doing their part as well.
I saw that this week. I went to the Chaminade American Heritage game, and the coaches you could hear them down below May when they came off the field, put your mask on. They were keeping the players separate. I think they're doing the best. You're talking high school kids. I mean, it's tough enough to get them to run the play right. Telling them where to sit on the sideline, which water bottle to drink. I mean, God bless you guys. Thank God I'm not a head football coach this year.
Yeah.
But I'm excited, and honestly, I think football's back, and there's nothing better. So
yeah. All right.